Yeah, we're live. 7:21. I've actually been on the phone for I don't know 10 or 15 minutes. I was talking to Ben from the car farm. I was getting an update on, and usually when we, so you guys know, when we talk, it's usually a good hour or something, because we have so many things that we talk about. But I was getting an update on the Omni, and also, and more importantly, on what's going on at the farm because they had a big storm that knocked some trees down and knocked the power out to the farm. So they're powerless. So it's an Amish farm now, basically. And unfortunately, the big wheel that would spin everything and make power for compressors and things like that is not going. So the upshot of that is the Omni still runs and it's still sitting there, so it's all good. But it's more important that they get all their stuff done and get their electricity and all that back so that they can get up and running. But before too long, the Omni should go in for stripping and paint and stuff, and so the outside of it and stuff should look as good as the engine compartment. And again, I blame Brian for that, for making the engine compartment look too nice. And then the head studs are all torqued down, so we'll see what happens next time we run it on the dyno. I may what I kind of like to do, and I didn't tell Ben, but what I'd like to do maybe is fly out there, and if the car is running good, and seems like it is, I could drive it down to see my buddy Brian Tooley and go over to maybe and see James Short and maybe go over and run some stuff on his chassis dyno, just so that we can get some data and stuff would be cool. Plus, I get to take a road trip and I get to drive the Omni because I got to drive it a little bit, but with a terrible shifter and it was in a questionable condition and all that stuff. So all of that's happening tonight. We're going to talk about the video that I just put up a little bit ago. It is the round 2, the rematch of the CHOPACABRA and the truck Norris and the cam motion little hot rod and the Torkinator, I guess, from the Pro LS cam from Summit Racing. And as you saw, and I've been alluding to this on a few of the live feeds, they're similar. So if you take one of these and you put it in your truck, it's going to work. It's going to work pretty well. Muhammad wins the PTR LS3 intake test coming. I don't know. After I test it, I'll do a video on it. I need to put together a decent test motor for that, because it needs to be, you don't want to just do it on the stock LS3. And I don't have a stock LS3 anymore. I do have a 6-liter that we might be able to do something on, which would be good. But I would like to take a trip and go back and see the Omni. I was also talking to my buddy Jimmy today about the trip. I'm going back. I'm going to go to Florida. I'm going to go to Florida and try to catch pythons. And so we're talking about that, the logistics of making that happen. So I want to go. He lives in Georgia, so I'll go and swing by. I also see my buddy Bernie, and who lives in Georgia, and I haven't been on a trip like that for a while. So check in with those guys, see how they're doing. Talk about the good old days, and then take an adventure down into the swamps, man, and drive the roads and see if we can't find something and help get rid of some of these pythons and catch them. For me, that's the big thing. The having to destroy them is it's sad, but it's necessary. But it will just be cool to say that I went to Florida and I caught one. But before you can say that, you actually have to go do it. It's like saying it's like saying you could climb Mount Everest, but it's not like that at all. Because actually driving down the road and stepping out of your truck and grabbing a snake by the tail and catching it is very easy. Climbing Mount Everest is not easy. So it wouldn't be like that at all. But you get what I mean. You got to do it before you can say that you did it. That's the important thing. Okay. So I got some more information from one of the viewers I gave him some information. I put information out on the on the 350 Pontiac. Let's see. and he told me basically that it is a like a base 290 horse version or something. So nothing, you know, nothing stellar. I get all kinds of stuff. Um, so more than likely, which would be fine. Actually, that would kind of be better as a 350 if it is a 9-to-1 very small cammed originally 2-barrel 350. That would be okay, because then that's just your basic starting point, and then we can only go up from there. So we know that given that cam, it's fairly small. We know that there's more power to be had with more camshaft, and more camshaft will certainly fit. There's enough head flow to make a lot more power than I'm sure the thing is making, or that it made with a 2-barrel. We know that a 4-barrel right away, it already has that. We know, but I have a 2-barrel too, so I can start off with a 2-barrel if we want to start off with a 2-barrel. So if we want to do that, we can start off at the very basic. And I have stock exhaust manifolds too for that we can run. So we can start off with it all stock and then run it, and then do the upgrades like you would. You put a 4-barrel on it, you put some kind of RV stylish cam in it, maybe something bigger. I don't know how much cam will fit in the Pontiacs. I don't, because I don't know what pistons are in there. I'm assuming that they have valve reliefs for the valve angle of those heads. They probably do. So hopefully they have enough room, and that would be good. And then we could put some camshaft in it, and and a cam and a 4-barrel and headers on it. And that's kind of what guys did back in the day, which would be kind of cool. Okay. Okay, we saw, if you haven't seen the video of all the truck cams, all very similar in performance. So if knowing that, based on, I'm going to put price instead of that. I'm just going to put based on the cool name. So would you pick one of the LS truck cams that all seem to perform very similar? Would you pick one of the cams based on price? Would that be your deciding factor for choice of camshaft, since you know that they perform the same? Okay. We went over the Omni updates. We went over the truck Norris cam test. The thumbnail photo, I'll show that again. So let's see, there we go. So this is a project I got done recently. You can see a big part of my interior door panel is missing. The structured part, the part that you grab onto, because that's where you're constantly putting load when you're grabbing and pulling it on a heavy door and stuff. And you see that that's plastic. And it's been missing for a while. For a long time, it was just hanging there, ready to break off. And ultimately it did break off. So what I did was took one of the existing screws that does go through metal, just put a washer on it, little piece of Harbor Freight tie down, and screw that on there. So now I have a fancy door handle that I can use to, when we have to pull the door shut, we can use that. And it's important because today my son used it and took a trip to the dumps. Unfortunately, a truck threw a rock up, big crack in the windshield. Probably gonna have to replace that. But also my in-laws borrowed it to do a ladder. They needed to go get a ladder and go to their RV or something. And so You want to be able to close the door. I know I should just go to Rock Auto and get another one or whatever, but sometimes I just like making it work with what I have. Let's see. 82 people here, only 22 thumbs up. Well, there's 31 actually, but there's 106 people here. So like, how about just, just randomly, just mindlessly, just hit the thumbs up. Do you have any LS3s that you'd like to sell? I don't have any LS3s at all. I had a local engine builder order me a cam for boost in my 351. He got me a Delta cam. It's 234, 237, 528 with a 114. That will certainly work. I don't know why don't you tell me what you're trying to do with your motor? And with a 234, I'm sure you have forged pistons with big valve reliefs in them for a cam like that. But if you tell me what kind of power you're trying to make and what you're using for boost and stuff, and like what you're trying to do with it, we can give you a pretty good idea of maybe what you should do. Old CB, I've binge watched all your stuff. I'm putting AFR enforcer heads and a comp 268 cam on an 81 Corvette. An 81 Corvette's not going to be high compression. I don't know what chamber size enforcer heads you have, but a 268 cam, if you're going from a 72 to a 64 cc chamber, which is kind of small block territory, you're going to raise the compression a little bit, but it's an aluminum head. So I think, I don't know, it's going to depend on how you have your timing curve and stuff, but it might be low enough where it's not going to be a problem. Underdog Richard, I shared your every cam is a turbo cam video to my Mustang group today on the post saying, don't waste your money on anything other than custom grind cams for boost. Don't waste your money on anything other than custom grind cams for boost. Oh, so somebody else was saying, because I thought you were saying that, somebody else was saying that people shouldn't waste their money on anything other than a custom grind cam for boost. Yeah, that's ridiculous. You don't need a custom grind cam for boost. First of all, if you had a choice, if you were going to do a turbo cam or blower cam or whatever, there's lots of really good off-the-shelf ones that will work just fine. There's also lots of really good NA camshafts that will also work just fine. There's also lots of really good truck cams and every other kind of cam that will work just fine with any form of boost that you want to put on it. How much power will a truck Norris add to an LY6? I can give you an idea here. I'm thinking it's going to be about 50. Okay, final 3 cam. Do you have the thing that I don't know is I don't know if you're running an LY6 and you're running it with a VVT cam. I don't know how much power that cam makes. My guess is it makes something similar to an LQ4 or an LQ6 or an LQ9 cam would be my guess. So we'll take a stage 2 cam. So compared to the stock cam on an LY6, we went from 443 to 494. So yeah, it was about 50 horsepower. That's compared to that was an LQ4 camshaft. Mike Davis is in the house. Any plans on doing an Oldsmobile engine? I would like to, but it's going to be behind lots of other stuff. I didn't realize until after I paid for the cam they're regrinds. So did they change the base circle of the camshaft? That would be my question. If they did, you're gonna have to change the push rod length or something. Is there a Truck Norris type cam for VVT? I don't think so, but you have to ask the guys at BTR. Hey guys, I'm in my car headed to the farm. My girl hurt herself, so I got to cover up there. Okay. Drive safe, man. Tim, what's going on? Jim, the Truck Norris cam is really good. The Truck Norris. Delta regrind. Did I mess up? I've never tried. I've never tried one of the regrinds, so I can't really say. Memory assures me the HO Pontiac 350s had the 068 cam, larger valves, higher compression. Yes, they had all of that. It's the wrong color strap. It is. But it's the one that I had. Get away. Get some sleep, man. Gotta do what you gotta do. Now it's a race car. That's right. If I would have made it leather, then it would have been really cool, huh? Porsche GT3 came with the same door handles. That's right. I know a Ferrari F40, except there is Italian leather, Corinthian leather. Have you done testing on an L96? Not specifically on that version, but it reacts exactly the same as all the other LS stuff does. You blue balled me on the 396. I can only report what happened, man. It's funny that I mean, I got some people that like physically threatened me. I'm like, that's the wrong way to go about this. That's not going to go well. But the funny thing is, the people like watching the video, there's no way that they're more disappointed than I am about spending all that time and money and putting a motor on the dyno and having it not work. That's that's not on the guys watching the video. That's all on my shoulders. That's not a good thing. And so again, there's nobody more disappointed about that than I am. Have you done a camshaft test where the only difference is cam duration? I know you've done tests on LSA and lift. Trying to think if we did. I'm sure if I look back, we can see that. Oh, it's for a nitrous carb? Okay. Then if it's for a nitrous application, then I would run a big cam. Hopefully you have enough piston to valve clearance for that camshaft that you're running. I got the kit from BTR. Yep, they got good stuff. If this poll speaks to me, because I usually tell people to buy the cheapest cam that will do what they want to accomplish. Within reason, of course. No way on some of the $99 China knockoffs. I haven't tried any of those. People have asked me about them, but I've never tried them. My motor's only $400. It's worth a try. Sure. That's the nice thing about junkyard motors is you try some sketchy stuff. Don't sleep on the cheap Summit Pro LS stuff. The cams are good. all cams matter. Last night we had a family movie night and we watched Cocaine Bear, which was awesome. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. I've never tested a Howard's Rattler cam. Oh, the 290 Magnum had wiped out some lobes. Flat tappets can do that. How good are Guatney Performance Innovation Stage 1 truck cams with VVT? I have no idea. I've never tested any VVT stuff on an LS. Colton, I'm looking at the Truck Norris and CHOPACABRA cams. Do you have any brand preference? I don't. I have people that I deal with that I like. I have known Brian for hundreds of years, so he's a good friend. Have you ever put 1.8 ratio rockers on a stock 6.0? Have you ever put one on a stock? What's a stock 600? Someone in the comments can help me. I don't know what cam I want to put in my BMW. What are you trying to get done? Just what do you want it to do? Power curve differences on high lift versus low lift with similar specs. We tested the Truck Norris cam and the NSR version of that, and there was about 6 horsepower, and it wasn't very much. Richard, I have a 71 Chevy C10 short bed, 396 big block, 99 4.8 liter LS. I'm trying to reach 1300 horsepower. Which one would be the best to use? Has a turbo 400 trans and a 373. I don't know that there's a best one. They both probably can get you there. I think they're going to do it differently. The 396 is going to take much less boost to get there than the 4.8 does. But I would do it with a 4.8 because I wouldn't want to blow up a 396. What mods do you recommend for an LS2 for 450 wheel horsepower? You're going to need what most people do at an LS2 is you would do the same thing you do all the LSs. You would put a better camshaft in it. It has decent heads on it. Then I would do the intake manifold. The LS2 intake manifold is not great. A fast intake manifold is worth a fairly good bit of power. All this stuff is expensive. And then the last thing that you would do is you need to run ported heads. Were you surprised on how close the results were with the different specs? I was a little bit surprised that how close they were over the whole range. There's a little bit less. The Summit cam and the Cam Ocean cam were a little bit softer down low. But I kind of thought that there would be differences like somewhere. I've never seen so many ads in the beginning when clicking on here. On the On the live feed? Taxnack. It's good. I like that. Outside, I'm going to make my own flow bench. That's good. I'll be able to test 1 psi equals 28 inches for CFM and have a velocity PO tube so I can start testing my work. Good. When swapping 862 heads on an LK4, is it worthwhile to install 30 thousandths head gaskets to take 20 off of the squish? Also, do stock LK4 pistons come out of the hole at all? You need to measure how far the piston comes out of the hole. They can come out as much as 8 or 9 thousandths on some of them, on some of the factory ones. So you definitely need to measure that. So if it comes out, you're not going to be taking 20 off. I would never put a 30 gasket on it. The most that we ever put on an LS is a 41. Normally we put 53s on it. And I don't know how much compression you're trying to get. Are you trying to get a ton of compression? You keep testing, I'll keep watching. So I like. That's a good relationship. Kevin, yeah, you do need valve springs. I want to build a 600 horsepower 5.3, put me in the right direction. All you need is a turbo. And you can run it with a stock cam and stock springs and all that. So you need a pump, injectors, turbo, intercooler, the turbo stuff, like wastegate, tubing and stuff. And you can make 600. Van Edelbrock dual plane and Carter AFB on a Ford 400. What Edelbrock dual plane do you have on there for the 400? Just install load sensors, and on the primary, both sides are identical. But a wide open throttle, the passenger side reads lean by 1 point. Look at what the secondary side of the intake is doing, or look for clogs in the jetting of the secondary side of the carburetor. Dean, are the Beatles singing that? Richard, I have a friend with a 4.6 3-valve modified with 1,200 horsepower. Okay. It's got enough head flow. I don't worry about squish nearly as much as I worry about piston to head clearance. A 1,200 horsepower 3-valve might not be a stock bottom end. After 9 years of not going to the movies with my wife, we finally went out and watched Cocaine Bear. I don't know that would have been the one that I would have picked after 9 years. There's probably much better ones. Really, you should have picked the Tom Cruise Maverick. It's really good. And we went to see it in an IMAX thing, and hadn't been for a while, but it was really good. My wife loved it. He's coming here and find out the Beatles have split up. That was a few days ago, I think. Richard, those cams seem to peak higher than what I'm looking for on a build. What would you suggest? Well, don't look at where they're making peak power. Look at what they're doing at the RPM range that you're looking at. I was talking to somebody today about this. In fact, he wants to do really big motors, but only run them. You guys are going to like this. He wants to run them at less than 2,800 RPM. So he wants to run them like diesels, but they'll be gas motors, big gas motors with blowers on them. And so he's asking about, cam timing. He's obviously concerned about cam timing and intake manifold and that kind of stuff. So it was some interesting stuff. But you guys will have we're going to do some videos on it. And he's running it on natural gas and propane. So I hope to do some dyno stuff with him. So you guys will be happy about that. Chuck Norris versus Choppy, round 2. Let's see. So peak torque is at 4,700. Peak power is at 6,000, 6,100. And remember, this has a fast manifold on it, so it would be less with the stock manifold. In fact, I can look that up and see where it made peak power with the stock. Let's take a look, shall we? 5.3. Choppy spark plug test. Fast versus the truck. Oh, that had much more camshaft. that had the like the red hot cam or something in it. That was all the way out at 6,400 RPM. So we'll have to scroll back. L33 cam test. Chuck Norris. Yeah. What do we got going on here? Okay. Yeah, that's still pretty high. You could run a torque cam. Get a flight uniform, she'll love you even more, yeah. Have you done a video on wastegate, sizing, placement, design, also boost controller, manual versus electronic? Manual versus electronic is pretty normal test. We have done that. The electronic stuff, the boost curve, like it doesn't improve boost response, except it does. So it doesn't improve the boost response of the turbo. The boost response of the turbo is always what the turbo is. If the wastegate is closed, which with a manual controller, it is closed at the beginning. It just opens up a little bit at the end. So with a wastegate controller, it's closed all the way until it's open. With a manual controller, it opens a little bit toward the end and then opens up all the way. So the boost curve in that part is not that great. It's better with a controller. So right at that end point, it comes up a little better. The beginning part, it doesn't really change because the wastegate's not open there. So that will be that response part. The beginning of the response part will just be a function of the NA power output and the turbo sizing, and then how much heat you've put into the motor, which is, that's all normal stuff. The wastegate sizing, I don't know if the engine dyno is a good place for that. I normally run 2 turbos, but I have run tests where we just run one of the turbos on the crossover tube on a single versus having 2 of them, and it definitely changes what they're doing. I'm using a blower with a variable speed setting to get change of vacuum depression. Okay. There's a sweet spot for quench height, somewhere in the 30, 35 range or something like that. Richard, this is for all the people here. What do you put your RPM cut at for a street build sled with no roll cage? Cleaning the garage. I did that. We did that earlier too. That low RPM on a gas motor. He's wanting to do these big chassis trucks. So we'll see. These springs have a disclaimer requiring a 3-piece 7.4-inch LS chrome moly pushrod, 6.3 lift spring kit. When you select custom truck cam kit, it shows 1-piece chrome moly rod. Are you running do you need 630 lift springs? And what the heck is a 3-piece pushrod? Are the 2 tips pressed in or something? I have a 6-liter with a CHOPACABRA and all the other goodies, looking to make 420 to the tire. My 2001 Sierra. I don't know that that CHOPACABRA is going to do that. Let's go to Mr. Wizard's laboratory. 6-liter. So headers, and let's say a stage 2 cam, stage 2 truck cam. 494 at the flywheel, so not 400 at the tire, more than likely. I don't think that the I don't think that the 706 862 heads are going to peak any lower than a 799 head does. Rich, who did you think he accidentally blocked? We can put a 6-liter in a Doral 270 SC boat. I think that the 408 that I did with a 206 cam might be just what you're looking for. I actually think that that's even going to make peak power higher than that. But let's find out. Got to go to our 408 cam test. 408 crane cam. So we got an AFR headed 408 stroker deal. And with a 206 cam, it made peak power at, there you go, 5,400 RPM. But the interesting thing is that peak torque occurred at 4,600. So what you need is a lot more displacement. That's the only dual spring kit that they have. A 630 lift. That seems like a lot. And the GLH converting to Daytona Shadow cable shifter. This is a cable shift, Kyle. This has a 523 trans, I think, in it. I tried Heim joints on the stock Omni rod shifter. The geometry still gets weird when the engine torques back. Messy, what number are you trying to hit? I didn't see what you were trying to hit. Oh, you want to hit the 400 mark? Is that with the 351 or the 6 liter? I'm confused now. My L3 misfires. Did you check all the normal things? Do you have a broken spark plug? Check your plugs, check your wires, check your connections. Richard, somebody did supply me the Pontiac information that I wanted. In fact, I was just looking for that. Here we go. He said, this is a gentleman that's going to loan me the 780 carburetor. Are you here today? If you are, let me know. This is from John. So John said, for your Pontiac 350 casting date of the head is K188, which is November 18th, 1968 for a 69 model year. 47 is a code for RPO L30. 350 two-barrel, 265 horse, 9.2 to 1 compression. The front of the engine, underneath the passenger side head and next to the timing chain cover should be a 2-letter code. The codes for the 69 265 horse 350 with 47 heads are, and then there's a whole list of them. Stock cam for this engine is stamped U on the front with a part number. Advertised duration at 50, or the 50 number is 195,203. It's a pretty small cam. Lift is 375 and 410. I bet rockers would wake this thing up. He's also going to loan me the Holley 780 carburetor for the 396, which would be cool. Can I put an LS in an SN95 Mustang and have AC? Yes, you should be able to do that. Six-liter with 317s. We'll get 400 at the wheels. Yeah, but just not the 6-liter question though was with that CHOPACABRA cam, and it won't do it with that camshaft. Price is a big factor, but I've been told that truck cams, you don't have to change the valve springs as often as the higher lift cams they recommend. You change springs 50 to 70,000 miles. Why is everyone worried about horsepower? The max speed limit in our country is between 55 and 75. Why can't we focus on reliable driving with a punch? I like the higher compression for the 706 heads. Any update on the L78 dyno run? I haven't run it on the dyno. Well, we did. We ran it. We did a break-in cycle and broke the cam in, and then it leaked, and then we took it off. So I haven't run it for power. It sounded good. LQ9 with 706 heads. That's going to have fairly high compression. So I don't know what cam you're putting in there, but if you put a truck style camshaft in there, you might have to run that on premium. Tax snack. I wouldn't bore the motor out to a 5.7 with a 5.3 if you're running a turbo. You should just run the turbo. The 5.3 with a turbo will be just fine. Richard, are you running a flat tappet cam in the L78? Yes. I'm going to run a factory cam or a reproduction of the factory cam from Elgin, which is the exact. It's an exact duplicate. They have the master specs. So that's going to be an exact duplicate. I also have that comp upgraded version, which we could try as well. See the movie The Hand? That's what happens when you mix punch with a Ford Grenade at 55. Well, James, how much more stall speed is the ZL1 converter? What oil in the 396 are you working on? We put a driven like high zinc break-in oil in it, I think, to get things started. My 69 Z28 got 15 miles per gallon with one of the idle screws, worked its way out. $2,400 stall. Okay, that's going to be better than a stock like truck converter. So, would you pick one of the LS truck cams based on price? 65% are saying yes. How many of you would pick it based on the fact that it has a cool name, like Truck NORRIS or CHOPACABRA, the choppy? Get to the choppy. How do they rate stall? You can't actually. They give you an idea, and I'm hoping that it's because they tested it on at least some basic, whatever their idea of a stock or standardized motor is. So they tested it with that, and it stalls at this speed with this amount of power in this vehicle. And then you go from there. Because if you change the power a lot, the stall speed is going to change. Building a 5.3 aluminum block, grounded, polished 24X crank. Want to get Gen 4 rods with Summit Pro forged pistons. Anyone know if the balance is going to be hard to get with a rod change? Somebody makes a forged piston that's a direct replacement. And I don't think it's not Summit. It's one of the other guys, Weisco or JE or the guys here in California. Somebody makes a drop-in piston. I can't remember who it is. Have you tested a Magnum engine with boost? I haven't run boost on a Dodge Magnum. Oh no, I take that back. No, I think that was a Hemi. I'm gonna say we ran a twin or a centrifugal, but I think that was a Hemi. .525 lifts, solid roller, 305, gets 18 miles per gallon on a 3,500-pound car. That's a lot. Unless it's a solid roller, but it has 200 degrees of duration at 50. Have you tested Summit Racing Pro-less pistons and rods under boost? I have a set. I don't think I've run them under boost, but given what we've done on stock stuff, you can make 1,000,000 horsepower with those. I would 224 at 50. 18 miles per gallon is pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, here goes all the fuel mileage, guys. I get 58.7 miles per gallon with mine. What's more important, static compression or dynamic? They're both important. James, you're tuning a ZL1 now with 600 wheel horsepower. I'm still afraid to lock the converter at wide open throttle. Does it have enough clutch for the converter to do that? Like what's the converter? Does it have a triple disc clutch on the converter or something? Richard, are you interested in testing an LSA blower? People have been asking me to do that for a long time. But it's it's going to do what all the other blowers that I've run on there do, like that 2.3 that we just did with Tom Demuse. Which, by the way, Tom, if you're here, I'm sure you got the blower, right? Does anyone know of a rebuild upgrade kit for the eBay Billet 7875 turbos? I think finding parts for some of those turbos is going to be difficult. DSRE 455. Just finished my all iron 490 Pontiac stroker. What CNC ported heads? Which heads did you use on it? You need to write a book on how to hot rod LS motors. I did. I already wrote 2 of them. 4X3s by SD Performance. Okay, cool. CO1 is a twin disc lockup. Okay. But you can still lock up the converter for cruise, though, right, James? Kyle, how about a 5.3 that gets down with smallish turbos? Well, it's average power production in the RPM range that you're running. And then a lot of this is 60-foot times, which has to do with traction if you're actually trying to run a number. Wondering how much you can get out of an iron LS head. The same as you can. I haven't seen ported versions of those, but I think that that's the same port as a 317 head. So we know it flows 245-ish or somewhere around there. And if it will port the same, then you can get them to flow way over 300. Suspension and tires wins races. Getting the thing to hook up, getting the thing to 60-foot for drag racing is pretty important. And if you don't get it to hook up, like with my road race car, where you run a, I don't know, what did I run, a 1220 at 127 or something? I got my 6.0 for 300 because of the iron heads and the long crank. I retired at 5.3 Camshaft. The thing is, on an LS, they're all the same. It doesn't matter whether it's a 5.3 or a 4.8. I think it's time I ran the 4.8 a little bit more. I need to easy off that one cylinder head, though. Need to get all of that soot out of there from the guy running it. I wish I had something to put the 4.8 in. I'd like to put it in Oliver's Nova. Put it in a go-kart. You need to put it on the Trail 90, right? He swapped a lot of cams. He was stripping out the bolts to hold the camera tank plate in. Yeah, that was just me being dumb. It's those dang aluminum blocks, man. Messy, either one of those, the 4.8 or the 6.0 will run good with boost. The 6.0 is going to make more power. Test driving a used Tesla Plaid. James, I don't know what a clutch tamer is. MJ, I don't understand what your question is. Is it a slipper clutch? Oh, Champ was asking that. I thought that that's what. I think Jimmy used one on the Turbo NSX, and it did seem to help. An iron LS1 is worth doing if a 6-liter is not available. Avery, you can make an aluminum 4.8. Just put the 4.8 crank and rods and pistons in an aluminum L33 block. Yeah, somebody else just said that. Any idea when you plan to dyno the Trophy 4-cylinder? After it's done and ready to dyno. Richard, what do you get if you use LS1 pistons in a 4.8? So you mean what does that bore and stroke do? The compression height is the same on those pistons. So you can use a 6-liter piston, you can use a 5.7 piston, you can use a 5.3 piston. I still want to bore a 4.8 out to, I think I have one at the machine shop. I want to bore it to 6-liter. I need to call about that. Keep reminding myself of all these projects. Bill, the Gen 1 engine's good too. What do you consider the minimum modification to require rebalancing the bottom end? Anything that changes the weight. So, Jan, you think it's going to be cheaper for you to put a second row of injectors than buy a bigger injector? I think you need to think about that. I think I've seen an LM7 board of 4060. I don't. I've heard people tell me about going to 4-inch, but not anywhere near there. The 6-liter, I've heard of people going out to 4065, but I don't even normally do that. I don't, John. I don't know what the draw would be on the injector driver if you were trying to drive 2 of them at one time. So MJ, you're wanting a cam recommendation? LS1, trick flow, fast. $42. Okay, so you can make over 600 horsepower. Is it going to be a race car? Is it going to be a street car? Do you have a stock bottom end, or do you have pistons like aftermarket pistons that have valve release? Is it a stock LS1 bottom end? If you have a stock LS1 bottom end and you're trying to make as much power as you can, you're going to need to put something in there that's like a 230-ish at 50 on the intake. If you have valve relief, you could put something bigger in there, but as you go up, drivability is going to go away. So the only one that's going to know what balance you want there of drivability and power is you. So you have to tell me which way you want to skew that. Street, stock bottom end. Then I think you'd be pretty happy with something like a BTR hot rod cam. Taco, thank you very much. Young, you're going to want to make 600 horsepower NA out of 5.3. That's going to take a lot of stuff. On your recent cam comparison, you showed that all four basically, same kind of power curve. Will the idle sound be the same? I don't think that they'll idle exactly the same. I didn't do an idle test on them. Your oil pressure surges. Did you hook up a manual gauge to verify that it's not that's not electrical connection? That's either a leak on the discharge side or a leak on the inlet side. I mean, I guess it could be a broken pump, maybe. I don't know that. I think the only pump I've ever broken was on the Honda. Love test of a 2.5-inch cast swap manifold with full exhaust. So you want on what kind of motor do you want cast manifolds on? A stock rod Gen 4 LS turbos or a torque number that would carry is 600 foot-pounds of torque, more cylinder pressure at 2,500 or 6,000. I wouldn't be trying to make lots of torque at 2,500 RPM. But with a stock Gen 4 rod, we made 1,300 foot-pounds. So none of those numbers are scary. James, what is your post about? I don't know what your post is about. I'm scrolling back to see if you said something that I missed. I don't think that you did. What do you think about an 1.5-inch primary on a 450 horse 5.3? I don't. Are you looking to try to gain something by going smaller for some reason? we didn't see a big change going from 1 3/4 down from 1 7/8. I think we might have also had a 2-inch header, and we didn't really see big gains from going smaller. Thing with the LS rods is the bolts or the tune. I've never heard of a connecting rod or a bolt or a rod bolt on a LS ever. When we broke them with the Big Bang stuff, we broke the rod. The big end of the rod is still there. The bolts are still attached and stuff. Or other brands of similar cast manifolds. Compare them to headers. Stock or cast exhaust manifolds are just a flow thing. And so if it has a bigger opening or whatever, that can help it flow. But they don't. The different brands might be a little bit better than others, but they're never going to be what a long tube header is. So all of it's like the test that I run on stock exhaust manifolds versus shorty headers. There's very, very little power to be gained going from a stock exhaust manifold to a shorty header, unless the stock exhaust manifold is really, really bad. And we don't see that often. So different kind of stock exhaust manifolds are not going to gain you stuff. Not very much, onesies and twosies. Headers do a lot, but not because one of them flows more than the other because of scavenging. Richard, you mentioned before sometimes wire the vacuum secondary open. No, we wire the linkage so that it works as a manual carburetor, as a manual or a manual 4-barrel that works as a double pumper and and we're not opening it with the vacuum. We don't wire the secondaries open. JC3, there's no such thing as a perfect cam. And anybody's version of a perfect cam would be wholly subjective. So it could be perfect for you. And I support that. I support you and your perfect cam and anybody else's. But that's not a universal thing, though. I wasn't reading, but I saw somebody wanted 600 horsepower from a 5.3. I was thinking it was 600 flywheel horsepower, but if it's 600 wheel horsepower, that's a lot. 132 horsepower per liter. It's a pretty good amount. Is there a horsepower level where retaining the factory LS VVT is no longer viable? Well, you would be limiting yourself. You start limiting yourself, and this will be the last question I have to get going. But with variable valve timing, if you change from the factory cam to any other performance cam where you would be making more power, as you do that with the available piston to valve clearance, you limit the amount of adjustability you can have in the cam. And as you go up in camshaft, you'll limit yourself away from being able to adjust it. It'll have to be fixed because it has to be fixed to clear the valves, to clear the piston to valve. And you won't be able to swing it because, right now or from the factory, they do big swings. They don't do big swings at wide open throttle. They change it very little at wide open throttle. But at idle and part throttle and cruise and all that stuff, that's when they swing it a lot. But you won't be able to do any of that after you go up in duration in these things. Then all of a sudden the piston to valve clearance, that window closes, and so you can no longer swing that, and you'll get to a point where you can't swing it at all. Then it just becomes a fixed cam. That's why when you do performance cams upgrades on a VVT, they give you limiters and then they give you locks depending on how big you go in the camshaft. And on that note, it's time to go. If you have not, please go check out the video that I posted today on the big redo of the shootout. 600 horsepower 5.3. I thought 500 horsepower 5.3 was pretty impressive, but now apparently that's yesterday's news. But that's yesterday, and tomorrow is tomorrow, and that's when I'll be back. Bam, bam, bam.